Have you ever wondered how ride engineers come up with ideas for new rides? Most people think that there's a guy who gets paid to sit in a room and just come up with cool ideas, but that's not actually how it works. It actually comes from someplace else, and we're going to shed some light on that. Now, can you imagine if you had no use of your arms or legs? There would be nothing more frustrating than knowing that a great part of childhood, something as fun as a theme park ride, is permanently out of reach for you. But maybe not, because someone is actually trying to change all that. Meet Oscar Elgarrista. He's a ride engineer from RES Rides in Switzerland. You're about to discover how he's working to make the world a better place through accessibility and ride engineering and just a love for people. Now, I thought this might be an interesting conversation, but I had no idea about the extraordinary individual that I was about to meet. You're about to find out what inspires him and how he's working to make the world a better place through great ride engineering. This is Controlled Chaos. We talk about how the world's most interesting attractions are created from first rendering to rope drop and beyond.
My name is Oscar Elgarrista. I know it's obviously in English would say Oscar Elgarrista.
You got the accent. So let's talk.
Yeah, of course. Actually, I want to know the last part of your story. Because I want to know what is bringing you here. For me, that's really important because it's connected to what I want to discuss.
So for those of you who, I'll tell the story again.
Of course.
So I was working at Jungle Cruise, and there was a new ride called Splash Mountain that was built, early mid 90s, and when actually that was Indiana Jones, but Splash Mountain was built in 88 or 89. But even so, there was a trailer right behind Splash Mountain, a trailer, and it had a sign that said Walt Disney Imagineering, and I said, "What is that?" And of course, there's no internet back then. I mean, there's no way to find out. You had the library, you had the newspaper. That's pretty much all you had in terms of information. And every once in a while, you could get a phone book, a Disney phone directory of names, and I have one of those. I happen to manage to get a hold of one. But you had to be resourceful back then. But I said, what are those? What's Walt Disney Imagineering? And they said, those are the people who make the rides, who think of and design the rides. And I said, well, I want to do that. How do I do that? And they said, well, you can't, nobody can. They get 1 million resumes a year and they throw them all out except for 5, so don't even try. And then I discovered in 1995 IAAPA, when we got the internet in our school lab, I typed in Disney Imagineering, the only 3 words I knew, and I found a guy named Bob Rogers, who is a chairman of BRC Imagination Arts, a design company in LA. Okay. When we talked, he said, we'll come to IAAPA, and they sent a phone book of information. Again, there's not really an internet, but what I realized when they sent this phone book, that there was companies in this phone book that each one had their own story. They were all equally as interesting as Walt Disney Imagineering. They all had their own interesting story to tell, and I realized that's when my entire world opened up, that there is a world of themed entertainment design that you can do. And ride engineering, ride manufacturing, all of it was interesting to me. So I went to school, got a degree in engineering, and then after school I ended up working for Universal Studios. So we worked at art and design, which was art and design did the haunted houses, and the Christmas shows and the parades, everything that was temporary. Universal Creative did all the rides, so I worked on Universal Studios Shanghai, things like that. So it was very interesting. One of the things that happened was that nothing ever lasted. They were always short jobs, 4 months, 6 months. Some people here work 15 years, but I didn't realize that. So a lot of times they would call me and say, we'll call you next year, and they always would. But I would end up with this pile of money. What do I do? So I went and got a flight rating. Go get my instrument rating. The next year I'd get my flight instructor rating. And then at a certain point, I think it was around 2008 or 9, they stopped calling. The economy crashed.
Correct.
And so I went out and just became a pilot. But I still have the love, and Themed Attraction, which is a website we started at that point, has grown and taken off, and we've got partners doing podcasts and all sorts of things. So it's been a wonderful journey. And now what we do is we talk to people like yourself, and we hear their story in the heart of what they like to do. So, which brings us to you.
That's awesome. And believe we didn't speak before. We didn't know this.
No, it's
the first time that we talk about
conversation.
That. But actually, my father and my brother. Father and my brother. They are both passionate about the planes. And actually, my father is at the time she also got the private pilot degree, let's say,
Right.
the accreditation. I don't know if it's the same as you did.
Um,
Is it yours? Would
It's
be
not
for
a
the
degree.
commercial?
No, if you get a PPL,
Not a
for
degree, like
example,
the accreditation. Or
Well,
like
what happens in Florida is that Florida has good weather,
Okay.
and the taxes are low here compared to Europe. So a lot of Europeans learn how to fly here.
Okay.
It turns out because in Michigan it's fogged in weather all year. So if you're
Okay.
from Michigan, where do you come? You learn to come to fly in Florida.
Okay.
So I just happened to live here, and there was a lot of people doing it, friends
Okay.
of mine. So that's kind of how I learned how to be pretty soon I'm a pilot.
But when you say pilot, you mean commercial pilot or
Oh
private
yeah,
pilot?
I fly an Airbus.
Oh,
Yeah. Who knew?
No.
Yeah.
Then, okay, then it's still the airplane industry, but not the same. But look, there is this passion. There are many things that you mentioned before that I would like to go back again.
Okay.
You mentioned something that is very important.
I feel like you're interviewing me now, but which is perfectly fine.
No,
This is a
but
conversation, but that's
because-
good.
again, your case is the reality. This is what is the reality of the people who are passionate for this industry. And you mentioned just in these few minutes of your, basically the explanation of your story, you mentioned something very important. Let me start. The first one, you mentioned that you saw this Walt Disney Imagineering. That is called having a reference. You saw something and then you knew that you wanted to become that. But what would have been the story if you didn't have the chance to see that?
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's very important to know someone else. And I really don't want to be a classy person, but it is really how it works. Because when we are growing up, we are learning by imitation. We are also discovering what we like and what we don't like, also by imitation and by watching what the others are doing.
Sure.
So that's why it's very important to give visibility to the people who are working in the amusement industry. Let me tell you a little bit more. We have amazing examples like Disney or Universal, in which probably all of us, we know names from creative people who have been working there, because some of them, they have books published, etc. No? But if I ask you, do you know any famous or known engineer who has been working in this industry? Let's say, would you be able to give me a name?
Well, I actually.
Well,
would,
okay,
but,
then maybe.
but
No,
I'm,
but
a,
just give me
I'm a poor example in this case because most people couldn't do that.
Yeah. It's because actually there are almost no references, because also the engineering has this dark side that we sell ourselves not very good, and our work is really in the dark. So we are
Right.
always behind all the marketing and all that stuff. So because
and also there's some competition because there's a lot of ride manufacturers out there,
Yeah.
and there's trade secrets involved.
Correct.
So you don't necessarily want everyone to know
Yes.
what you're doing.
Correct, and actually that's the reason. Today we can discuss about technical things, but obviously I cannot explain you details because that would be part of the intellectual property of
Sure.
the company.
Right.
But of course we are not going to discuss about that. We're going to discuss about something more important. It's just to show to the people who may hear us today that may have interest in our industry, that hey, there are people who are called engineers or leisure engineers, and what are these people doing? Then we have a wide variety of activities. Okay. Another thing, let me go back to your first speech, because you mentioned another thing that I loved a lot. You were mentioning that once you had the possibility to have this booklet full of names from other companies.
Yeah, company directory.
Company
Phone book.
directory.
Phone book.
Phone
right.
book. Yeah, sorry, because my English is not. I'm trying to
Yeah.
express
Well,
myself the best as I can.
Honestly, if you ask someone today, they wouldn't know what a phone book was.
Wow.
A lot of the kids probably don't. But
Correct.
that was your lifeline. Because if you didn't have your phone book, you couldn't call anyone.
Yes.
You had to go find a phone book.
Exactly. Nowadays we have internet, but also you need to know how to search. That's a little bit the
Well,
point.
that's true, yeah.
So you mentioned something very important. Once you, let's say, you discovered that there were many other companies besides Walt Disney Imagineering who were working as well in this industry. And let me tell you, this is exactly probably one of the most important messages that we have to say to everybody here in IAAPA, all the people who are hearing us, that working in this industry, being a professional, doesn't mean only to work in Universal or to work for Disney or to work for, I don't know, Cirque du Soleil, whatever. No, all the companies they're doing amazing job.
And there are thousands of them.
Thousands of them. And before we were discussing about ideas from entrepreneurs, people who are developing their own idea. Believe me, there's really, the sky is the limit. So with this, I want to tell you, in my personal experience, I am also a passionate person for the amusement industry. I was born in the 89, so I was very lucky because in 95, so I was about 6 years, a big theme park was built next to my hometown. I'm from Spain.
Is this Aventura?
Correct, exactly. I'm from Tarragona, and it was this huge project called Aventura. Okay, this is important as well because I will go back now, almost 30 years ago, or 30 years after. I will go back to that point, and you will understand why. That reference, that huge park, was exactly the same as it was for you to watch that track with the logo of the logo of Walt Disney Imagineering. Okay, for me that was discovering what was a theme park that, of course, I have never seen before. For me, it was discovering what was a roller coaster, like very good roller coasters. Fortunately, like the B&M ones, Dragon Khan, and most other rides. And for me, it was discovering also the shows in the park and the entertainment and this world of, the magic that the theme parks have. Okay, just as a short mention, Aventura, the park, was created by the company Anheuser-Busch. It's the same owner, or at the time, than Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, and Busch Gardens.
I didn't know Anheuser-Busch created that. That's interesting.
And that's very funny because the story is basically a beer company who wants to sell their products, the beer, and they create a theme park because the main idea was to sell the beer.
Sample the beer.
Correct.
Right.
So nowadays, this would probably be shocking for us, like that the main revenue would come from the beer. But that's actually the point. And what's the good thing about both parks that I mentioned, Williamsburg and Busch Gardens? Both are extremely well designed in terms of architecture, in terms of detail. So there was one company called PGAV, an architectural design. I think nowadays they changed the name to PGAV Destinations. I might be
wrong.
But
it's still PGAV.
Correct.
Uh-huh.
It's the name of the proctor. I don't know. It's the initials of the guys.
Of the people, yeah.
These guys designed both parks, among many other things, and they also did the master planning for Aventura. Why I'm mentioning this? Because just one huge project like Aventura, we might know B&M. Okay, we might know B&M, we might know other manufacturers, but probably nobody knows that there is an architectural design in St. Louis called PGAV, that they are specialized in these kind of huge theme parks, which, by the way, I have to say that they are very well designed. And no, we are not sponsored by them, but it's the reality.
Yeah, and they're good people too.
Correct. And we have traveled along many parks. We know the difference between the parks, and I would rate those parks as the high quality ones.
Well, and if I could have an aside on this, if you think about living in New York City in the 1850s, in San Francisco, or a lot of these places, Chicago, and I know you're from New York, but there was an idea that we can create happier people by creating a park inside of a city. Mm-hmm. So there was Central Park and Golden Gate Park, different places where people could recreate, even though they live in an urban environment. And I think that there were other parks that ended up being theme parks that took that notion. There was a couple in Los Angeles area, Griffith Park inspired Disneyland supposedly, but there was several other parks too, and I think Busch Gardens was one of those where in Tampa we're going to create a park that is a healthy environment that people can go to, and of course we're going to sell them beer when we get there, but or at least have them sample and know what Anheuser-Busch is. So I think it was part of that movement of trying to create healthy, safe spaces where people can not be depressed by being in a big city.
Correct.
Yeah.
Plus also we were, keep in mind that in the US, the background of theme parks was coming obviously from Disney, and it was much earlier than what had happened in Europe. In Europe, we started having the big theme parks much later. So going back to this reason why I'm talking about that is because nowadays I am able to know that in that park called Aventura, not only B&M was working, not only BTAB was working, but also many other companies that I know today very well, and most of them who may not be in operation anymore. So this means that all of these people, they had a role to create that huge thing. And this is something that I want to mention, to explain also if it can serve as a good reference for someone who is hearing us and a person who might be interested in a technical side of the rides, or who might have curiosity of how the rides work. I was that person, okay? I was that person. All my life, for whatever reason, I was attracted so much to the rides of PortAventura. I was attracted not only to the rides, but also to the shows, to the entertainment. I cannot tell you, I really cannot explain you why, but I've always been interested into that, okay? I think we all have a passion inside of us, and if we are lucky to get, I don't know, a good teacher in biology or a good teacher in maths, maybe we are able to love it. The same way that if we have a bad reference, we might be able to hate it. You know?
Yeah.
So I started really liking this industry from the technical point of view and from the creative point of view. So obviously I went to university, I got a degree in engineering. In Spain, I chose one which is called industrial engineering. It's like really wide and generalist. It's one of the toughest ones because you have to know about absolutely everything.
Sure, you do Q design?
Q design would be
design?
one of the things.
Sure.
With one of the things, but obviously applied to the industry. But in the university, I was really insisting every time that I could have the possibility to make, that I had to deliver some work, I was always focusing everything on theme parks, okay? Theme parks or rides, but always from the professional and technical point of view. If it's queues, we need to know the way to optimize it. The same way they do it in the airports, or the same way they do it in the Amazon facilities. And after my studies, of course, I wanted to go to a manufacturer, and that was one in particular that I wanted to go. That was called Intamin. From the very first moment I knew.
Yeah, Intamin is a very well-known
correct
company out of Switzerland.
Correct.
And how do you say this? Is it RES rides or RES rides?
It's RES rides.
RES rides.
I will explain you why. I think it's very important, but we need to mention also, the same way we are mentioning B&M, I think it's important because the references are the things that you have been on. So I wanted to work for this particular manufacturer, and I achieved that. And so it was really amazing, okay? Then situations like the COVID, you also mentioned that your job at Universal was affected by the crisis in 2008.
Yeah.
Keep in mind that in 2008 I was still in university, so I was really not aware of how much that would impact me when I was going out of university, right? So the COVID time was really tough, and we were obviously in the situation we were all laid off, and that's how it works. So this is going back again to what you mentioned at the beginning, that we have to diversify, and we have to. So actually, the more knowledge that we get, the better. And that's the reason why I went back to the Engineering Association of Catalonia in Barcelona. I moved back to Barcelona to live, and there I was able to create the Leisure Engineering Committee. And this is something
Say that again, the
Leisure Engineering Committee. I'm gonna repeat that many times because the goal of this group, this technical committee, is none other than promoting the job that we are doing, the technical people behind this industry. So we were able in this committee to meet together the technical managers for PortAventura, the project managers from manufacturers like myself at RES, people from Intamin, people from others. We were able to meet together with the public transport company of Catalonia, who is managing the funiculars and the cable transport in some of the installations which are very known in Catalonia particularly. So that was very important. And why I'm saying that? For all the people that may hear this, diversify. Let me tell you in this way. The leisure engineering is something very wide, okay? It's not only about roller coasters or rides. That might be the most common thing. but
it's the most visible.
The most visible,
at least to anyone in a theme park.
Correct.
Environment.
But how many of the people who are hearing this have been to a festival, a music festival? How many? Probably almost everybody, or to a concert. Taylor Swift, whatever. I'm not into the latest start, but we've all been in some of these concerts. Okay, do you know? Have you ever heard? Have you ever thought about all the people who are working behind the stage, building the stage, certifying the stage? For instance, in the equipment that we can find in a stage, we can find lasers, we can find smoke, we can find spark machines. All of that is done by engineers and people who have a lot of responsibility because they are liable when they sign the documents. That's the big difference with marketing. Marketing can do whatever, and the worst thing that can happen is that they get fired. But when you are an engineer, and you know it very well, you are taught or you are taught to keep a procedure, to be professional, to solve the issues, and basically to be responsible of your work. That's why we are liable. That's why we have consequences if our work is not well done, right?
Right.
Correct.
And it can even be fines or jail time.
Correct. That would be correct. One of the cases. And I want to mention, because now we are talking about the AI and the amazing applications of the AI. I'm absolutely for all these applications and the future, but there is one difference that the AI cannot do for us, for the engineers, and you know which one is?
No, I don't.
The AI cannot take responsibility.
Oh.
There will be always the signature of someone, because let me tell you, in the worst case, in the worst scenario, if a stage is falling down, the judge is going to call the person who signed the paper. You know what I mean? So that's why I want to put value, and I want to really put in the center of the value in this industry the engineers, because we are responsible for our work. That's why we have to work very well, and that's why maybe the reason why the engineering is not always in the front marketing is, so it's not very visible, because we are very busy working and not selling ourselves. You know,
right.
That's really the impression I have.
Yeah, it's absolutely, but like you say, it's not at all visible.
Absolutely.
And so that's where we're kind of talking about this. You know, this is the opportunity to kind of pull the curtain back and talk to the guys who are actually making it, which is you. And we're doing toast here.
We are always, but you know, we are now at IAAPA, and IAAPA is a place to talk, like we are doing now. It's a place to meet the customers. It's a place to know what the customer needs, and it's really interesting. I wish everybody could be here. I wish everybody could also be here from inside one of the booths, because believe me, when you talk to the customers and then you understand what they need, and then you are able to answer and to give solutions because you know this industry and because you know and you have been there before, it's something really amazing that I recommend it to everybody. Let me tell you something also, because this can be a motivation for a lot of people. I was talking, going back to Aventura, I wanted to mention that because 30 years after the opening, in 95, next year it will be 30 years of the opening of the park, I am writing a book about the creation of the park, which is fine, but for me the important is not the book, it's the experience that I am having going back and being able to interview all the people who were involved in that park 30 years after. Because when the park opened, I had 6 years. I was not able to say thank you, because thanks to you, now I'm a leisure engineer working in a ride manufacturer.
And you've created lifelong memories.
Correct. And now, this trip that I'm doing in this documentary and the book, I am going to people like, iconic people like Craig Hanna, in Universal Studios Creative.
Craig Hanna,
Craig Hanna, you know it very well because he has been involved in many rides. Also in Aventura, you know, it was part of Universal Studios for certain part, for certain years. And they created amazing rides like Sea Odyssey or Temple del Fuego. It was 100% Universal Studios. I am able now, with 35 years old, to go them, interview them, know how they did it. So I'm also learning every day. And I think for me, but this is all personal for me, to say thank you to them. Thank you for creating that, because you didn't know, but when the ride opened, I was a child and I was in the queue. And thanks to what I felt, I was so inspired. And that was the motivation that took me to nowadays.
And to throw another wrinkle on it, those folks, it's been 30 years. If they, those people are going to pass away at a certain point, and you're capturing those stories in a moment in time, and they're not going to be around. And so, in a way, you don't realize it now because a lot of the interviews that we've done, and we take videos of rides too, we're getting historical history that won't be around. It could be gone tomorrow. And so preserving how it was done is equally important.
Yes. Bernard Stengel, this engineer, this would be probably the only known engineer. Bernard Stengel is this German engineer who designed the modern roller coasters together with Schwarzkopf.
Are you talking about the original loop-de-loop?
Correct.
Thing?
So there
in
was
the 1800s.
Exactly. Yeah. It was that engineer behind who designed the software to create roller coasters, which is still nowadays a very important company, manufacturing or basically designing a huge amount of rides out in the market still nowadays. This guy has a book. This guy has many interviews. Not many, but has some interviews. And there was a moment not long ago that I said yes, exactly because of that. Not because they are going to pass away. Unfortunately, I'm also going to pass away at any point. But it's like, I need to know it. I need to do it. I really want to enjoy it now because now I'm able to speak with them and understand them. So all of this, I really do it just first to say thank you also to my family, to my grandparents who brought me to the parks. But if this can be useful for someone else, I love it. And now, look, I spoke that after university, I lost, basically I missed one of the important things. I didn't go to Intamin immediately.
Oops,
sorry.
Excuse me. I
started in Portaventura, in Portaventura, in Parques Reunidos, oh my God, sorry. So I wanted to go to Intamin, and I tried to go to Intamin, but it didn't work. So, it was like, it didn't work, so I need to find a second option. This second option was the company Parques Reunidos. In the USA, it's called Palace Entertainment.
Palace Entertainment.
Correct.
Yeah, they're fairly well-known
then
attraction company.
I achieved, correct. I achieved to get an internship with them, with Parques Reunidos. The headquarters was in Madrid. And I started with a lot of illusion, with a lot of passion. It was, of course, it was not Intamin, and I was slightly disappointed by that. But that's exactly where we come to the point of what you mentioned before. And I want to also remind the words that Craig Hanna, this Universal Studios creative, said in this interview: never reject a job in the leisure industry. Never. Because believe me, thanks, in my case, that I worked in Parques Reunidos, in the development department, I was able to get the skills that later would bring me to Intamin.
Yeah.
And much more than that, Believe me, if you don't know it, it doesn't mean that you don't like it. Okay? So, in the industry, there are many companies, not only the big ones. There are companies that you have probably never heard before, but the job that they are doing is so exciting, you cannot believe. So thanks also to you, because you are putting the focus on these other stories behind. And that's very important, because I think everybody would agree that being a professional is knowing how to go into a company, how to learn these new skills, how to develop the work. And in my opinion, the less you diversify yourself, the less good professional you are. That's my opinion. Okay? So that's why for leisure engineering, if there is anyone interested in this wide topic, this is not only about rides and roller coasters, those are included, but also water slides, also playground equipment, also stage, also cable transport. Believe me, there are huge companies only working in each of that topics, and the work is amazing. So having a passion for learning new things will really make you keep the passion in every single work. When you get to a work and you are bored and you really don't want to go, in my opinion, it's because you have lost a little bit of this passion or an objective. So that's why, if there is anyone interested into that, believe me, it doesn't matter if it's a small company or a big company. You are going to learn a lot. So go for it. The career is not a single line. It's not from going from point A to point B. You have to go in A, B, C, D, E until you get to be a professional. And being a professional doesn't mean only to work in a big company.
And it's interesting because one of the executives from IAAPA gave a speech a couple of years ago. And I was listening to him, and he talked about how, you don't have to just be doing funnel cakes, serving funnel cakes. And he talked about it like this was a bad job to have. Mm-hmm. And if you think about it, pay-wise, it probably is. But he said, sometimes you want to get past just serving funnel cakes. And I thought, no, you don't get it. You don't understand. My first job was standing in Frontierland at Disneyland telling people where the bathroom was. And that was it. That was really all I was qualified to do, was stand by a rope and say, don't go on this side of the rope. It's park's too crowded. You have to keep moving this way. But there's value. And a friend of mine actually said, there's something very therapeutic about just standing there and helping people and telling them where the bathroom is or where to get some Advil, So I feel that every job is valuable. Just piggybacking on what you said, that all the roads, not to say that, some people have disappointing careers and it just doesn't turn out the way they wanted. We can't say that every way is going to just lead you to your dream opportunity or career. But the point is that there's value in everything that you do. Yeah.
And as an example, when I started in Parques Reunidos, I was in the development department, and then I was able to buy rides from manufacturers. I was able to do many things, but then I discovered something in the safety department. I discovered that there was a guy working in safety for the parks. I didn't even know that. Just look how stupid. I didn't even know that there was someone working in safety. And at the end, I started being so interested into that I ended up being safety director for water parks. So, and when I started in the company, I only knew about roller coasters. That was bad. Let me explain. That was just not enough. You need to know about everything. That's why every single company is an important piece of the entire industry. So if there is someone who's disappointed because they didn't get him or her in Universal or in big parks, hey, for instance, come to IAAPA. I don't know how many hundreds or thousands of booths there are here. Each and every one of these companies are selling something, are providing solutions. And if you have a technical background, you don't have to worry about anything. Just be professional, and every company will love. You will like it. Going back to the creation of RES, after it's the company where I'm now. RES is Ride Engineer Switzerland. It's a small company, let's say medium small company in Switzerland. And this story that we have been talking before about changes, about ups and downs, is also the story of the creator of this company called Willy Balzer, who is around us while we are talking this. He has a huge, extensive background. He comes from a traveling showman family, and he decided at one point, I want to do my engineering, my studies, because I want to move forward to create more big things, more, how can I say it? I want to create things the way it has to be. So he started creating engineering for other manufacturers. Later he created his own company called ABC Rides. And this company, ABC, has worked with many, many, many customers in the world. And later on, in the process, it was sold to Intamin, So RES Rides was created immediately after. So that's sometimes why the people are asking me, what's the difference between ABC and RES? Actually, none, because all the engineers and all the technical team from ABC, the one that created the big rides from ABC, all of them are at RES. So RES is basically the new name, but of course the other company is going on their way with another owner. We wish them the best, but that's why we are coming from that background. And RES Rides is known in the market for weird concepts, weird rides. I would say I want to mention the word weird.
Weird but fun.
Correct. Why do we have to do the same as everybody?
And very interesting, yeah.
Correct. We are creating concepts completely different. But when you have a bar and you are a business, you want to offer something different to your customers because you have to surprise them. That's why we have coasters like the Rollerball, which is this kind of pinball coaster that moves. It's a family ride. It's an eye catcher because everybody watches that ride and they say, whoa. Definitely everybody has an opinion on the ride. Either some of them, they think it's boring. Some of them, their kids, they might think, oh, it's too much, but go on the ride. Believe me, it's amazing. So we are in this company developing concepts from completely scratch. We are trying to make different coasters like the Airloop, this coaster that has rotating seats that you can rotate while you are on a roller coaster. This allows
you have control over your coaster.
Correct. And this has a huge possibility for theming, for integration in a show, right?
Well, and the way it looks from the picture is that it's and I think there's everyone ever since you're a kid, when you see a bird, you want to fly.
Correct.
And in a manner of speaking, you control the wings. You're flying. You're controlling the bank of the airplane, as it were, and you can fly through a scene, which is really cool.
Exactly. You know very well because of the plane, all the theory behind the shape of the wings, etc. Just imagine the rides from the guest point of view. They are really fun to go in. I can really tell to everyone, you cannot imagine how fun it is to work in the company. I am doing every day myself. I'm talking personally about myself. I am involved in safety in the rides because we are designing a product, a machine that has to comply with standards. So we cannot do whatever we want. We have to comply according to the standards, the EN 13814 in Europe, or Middle East, or the ASTM in the US. Basically, this guideline is telling us a basic starting point. Okay, so we can make sure that the ride has some serious background and it's standardized with the rest of the products, right? But every day we are working into that. I'm sorry. We have many people here around, but that's awesome. Every day we are working on that, and believe me, for someone who doesn't even know, behind the rides, as I tell you, there are these standards, but it's not as easy. The standard doesn't give you all the information. Like how do we design the seats to be more accessible for people with prosthetics, or people with an amputation, or people with big people or very tall people. We need to create.
Or as we talked about the other day with this other person about the, a paraplegic cannot do anything from the shoulder down.
Yes.
And of course they want to experience all this. And then some person like with the syndrome that he had, his joints don't work properly, and it physically hurts him to do certain things. Even the movement on the Spider-Man ride, where they have it's a motion sensor or some sort of a visual, I don't know what you want to call it. It's like a
sensor.
Yeah, some sort of sensor. And basically, when you go like this and you move your hand, it shoots a spider web onto the screen, and then you can fight the spiders or whatever you're fighting. But that was physically painful for him to do, and he can't do it.
Yeah,
it's hard for me too, to do this for 4 minutes. But yeah, those are all important things to think about, because the limitations that you and I have are much different than an average guest, and even if it's only 1 out of 100, that can impact them, or it's even 1% of the bottom line of a company makes a difference. And if there's one part that can cater to that person, then the folks are going to go to that place and not to the other place. So there's the sales aspect to it too. But it's just also, I think, about being a good, better person.
Yeah.
That you're trying to make sure that everyone has a chance to experience the ride. Not that every ride is for everyone, but but at least if they want to have an opportunity, they can.
Yeah.
Because it's available to them.
This is a technical thing. This is really a technical thing. We want everybody to go in. So we are going to find out the way to create that possibility. Let me give you an example. The Mystic River Falls in Silver Dollar City, that's a ride that maybe nobody knows, but in the station there is a switch, there is a transfer, and we are able to move.
Is this your attraction? Is this RES?
Yes, it's RES. It's from RES, this ride. It's a beautiful rapid river with the highest drop in the northern hemisphere. It has a slide, it has a vertical lift. It's really awesome, and the theming is delicious. The Herschend family are doing great job into that. Well,
quietly, they're a fantastic theme park company.
Absolutely.
And if you go to the park, for those folks listening who have not been to a Herschend park, they have, and this is really telling, they have retirees who are working guest services. Just they're out in the parks, and they treat you so well. That's the Southern hospitality. But they're not a college kid. Not that college kids aren't great, because I was a college kid in the park, but they really have guest service down, and quietly, they're an amazing company.
And I give you another example and another evidence that they are a good company. When the ride was designed, they were asking for this possibility to load people with mobility issues to be able to go on the ride as well without affecting the operation of the rapid river. So that's why we designed this.
And let me say this for those listening. Herschend, you may not know, but it's Dollywood in Knoxville, Tennessee, or Gatlinburg, and Silver Dollar City in Branson, Missouri.
I mean, if you don't know, you have to know that, really, because probably, I mean, Dolly Parton, we all know her and her beautiful theme park. Herschend is a really, really nice operator, and you can just notice by the rides that they are designing are perfect. Then these kind of features, the possibility for someone with mobility issues or any kind of mobility requirements to go on the ride without affecting the operation of the rapid river. So they have a separate station to load there, taking the time that they need. And then we are able to dispatch the boat into the layout, again, without affecting the operation.
That is really key, because when I worked at Haunted Mansion, for example, we had three switches. A little secret for you Disney fans out there. So you had full speed, you had half speed, and then you had stop. And then you also had a button for e-stop in case you needed to stop it suddenly, someone fell out or whatnot. But you could stop the ride, so if someone needed to do a wheelchair transfer, they could stop. But if someone can walk, but maybe they're on crutches or they just don't walk very fast because they're old or very young, you could put it on half speed. So instead of going 3 feet per second, you're going 1.5 feet per second, something like that. But to be able to pull that ride vehicle out of the track layout, that's valuable, and then keep the rest of the ride moving.
That's one of the solutions that we found. But now, for instance, let me point another ride we call the Interactive Observation Tower. One of these examples is in Legoland, Germany. It's part of Merlin Entertainment, and it's basically a tower where there are many balloons attached to it, so you can go into the balloon standing up, pulling a rope, and then the balloon is going up, so it's interactive. And when you release the rope, the balloon is going down slowly. You can also rotate. Okay, that ride also has some of these balloons accessible for people with restrictions, mobility restrictions. Huh? So I think from the manufacturer point of view, although we are not obliged by anyone, because in the normative there is no particular obligation for that, there is a suggestion, but we are obliged to provide better products for tomorrow. You know, folks who have, I think it's called cochlear implant for hearing. Some of these guys, they were writing to us because now I explain you one of these projects that we are developing. They told us, we have issues with the over-the-shoulder restraints, because if the ride is really bumpy, then we can crash against the let's say the harness. So these guys, they really want to get rid of that. They really want to have the lap bar system.
And let me back up and explain to those because it's audio here. When you pull a lap bar harness over your, like a roller coaster, you have basically on either side of your ear, you've got a big bar. Right. And so when the roller coaster goes around a turn over a bump or it vibrates, your head can bounce back and forth between those two metal bars, and it hurts. It hurts everybody. It hurt me. But and the newer ones are obviously better.
Yes.
But okay.
And one of these projects that we are developing, and that's one of the tasks that we are doing, the engineers, and that's awesome. And I would love to show to everyone what we are doing and all the things that we are doing. One of these is a study. We are developing a new seat that can be suitable for people with amputations. And when we talk about amputations, we are not only talking about one leg amputations. You know, there are many million people in the world, and there are people with 4 amputations, so both legs and both arms. Those guys, they have really issues to go on the rides, not because the rides are unsafe, it's just because the restraint system doesn't attach them properly. But that's the point. Let's go one step further. Let's try to improve. Let's try to make the rides accessible, and also to welcome those guests who will enjoy as much as all the others the ride. So we are developing a study with many people and some organizations for how can I say, like mental disabilities, because this is not only about physical disabilities, but also the behavior of the customer is really important. You know, even if you are sitting in a roller coaster or in a ride, if you are not able to understand, or if you are not capable to hold yourself, you can still be injured, okay? So we are developing at the moment this study, which is a pragmatic study, basically, taking one of our seats, putting people one after the other, measuring the clearance envelope, asking many parameters related to the ergonomics of the seat. And at the end, we want to have the solution, because it's not only one thing, it will be a pack of different elements together with the seat, in order to be able, for the customers, for the customers to welcome many more guests, like people with serious amputations or serious physical disabilities. So the engineers, we are really working onto that. It's so amazing. And in RES, just imagine, it's a small company, as I told you before, but we are investing time and a lot of effort into that, because we really believe into that, among many other things. For instance, the water rides in Europe, we have, just to mention another example of this development to make the rides better. The water rides, we all know them. We have seen flume rides, we have seen splash battles, water jumbles, but actually the water rides, they have an issue, especially in countries that have water restrictions in summer. I'm coming from Spain, and we do have serious problems every summer, because it's really a limited source, and nowadays they are not allowing you to fill up the pools. You cannot do that, no, during certain months of summer. So one of the other developments that we are doing, we are trying to optimize as much as we can the water ride. So you can also have salty water in the rides.
Well, so that's got to create problems for steel.
But that's why we engineered that before, so the rides would be able, and also the water system, the water treatment system would be able to use sea water if we would be required to. Not us, of course, but if suddenly the local government is asking to the park, no, you cannot put potable water, then the park has to have an alternative, right? So this is one of the many topics that we are working at RES. And to make a short summary of all our conversation, it is very important to find the passion, and this we can know by knowing a referent. People who work here, if a woman is, let's say, especially for instance, nobody has seen a woman engineer in the amusement industry. There are not, almost none, but it's not correct. There are a lot of women working in the leisure engineering, but it's just because they are not visible. So once you have a reference, you can also be more attached to that person. You can follow, you can learn, you can say as a kid, I want to become that when I grow up. Also, what we discussed, learn, because every single step in your career is important and will teach you many things. So please guys, do not be disappointed if you want to go to, if you want to shoot for the stars, and no, don't be depressed, don't lose your will, your power. No, go for it, because every single step will make you better professional. It will teach you many things. So that's why we are talking. I think it's the case for everybody here in IAAPA, not only in the booth, in IAAPA, that every step is making you learn a lot. And finally, for all the leisure engineers or all the people interested into that, there are thousands of companies talking about many different topics who are amazing and really, like, it's an amazing industry that you need to work here, because it's really a lot of fun. Believe me, that's really, really the case.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, no, I mean, and I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, there's so much and so many opportunities, and really it's just making the connection and finding the person who knows the person who needs some help, and then you being really professional, as you say, and then also just a likable person. I mean, I think less important than the resume is being someone that someone wants to spend 2/3 or 1/3 of their life with, right? Because if you're there 8 hours a day or more, you have to enjoy working with those people. And so turning it around, are you someone worth or that people want to spend time with?
Yes.
It's not grumpy. I mean, we all have our moments, right? But
myself, the first one.
Some more than others, but
yes.
But yeah, I think that's as big of a key than a degree or the business card that says your title is. It's what kind of a person you are, which that goes a long way.
Yes.
Are you a good communicator?
And just let me point something. Even if you are not working in the amusement industry, don't feel depressed, don't feel disappointed. Believe me, the amusement industry is not the number one industry in the world. We are far beyond others, like standard industry, railway, airplanes. All the other industries are much beyond us, so much further us. So we are just taking good things from other places. So if you are working in other topics, I don't know, logistics or whatever, believe me, it is about also leisure engineering, because those skills and that knowledge that you are going to get in those other industries, you can bring it to our industry. The magnetic braking system was not invented here. It was invented in the military, in the other applications, but then we took those other applications and we we adopted them for braking cars, for braking roller coasters, for braking drop towers. But that was not invented by us. So that's why I want to tell to everybody that all the knowledge from the industry, the leisure industry, or from everywhere else, it's something that it's really valuable here. So that's why never be disappointed, even if you are doing something that has apparently nothing to do. That happened to me as well, and thanks to that, thanks to diversifying yourself, you become a better professional every day. So I really want to transmit positivity to the people to really achieve their dreams and because everything is possible if you are constant. If you work every day, believe me, that's the only key to success, in my opinion. Oh my God, thank you so much.
This is wonderful. Thank you for, we talked an hour. Well, let me say thank you to Oscar with RES Rides for talking with us today about accessibility and safety and achieving your dreams in theme parks. This has been fantastic.
It's been fantastic. Thanks so much. And thank you for creating this podcast, because you are creating reference. for the people. Maybe, and you may not know it, but maybe one of the people, a kid, is hearing us. And thanks to the conversation that we are having, now this kid knows that there is a company called, I don't know, RES, that they are developing seats and roller coasters.
And it doesn't matter where you are, because even in Switzerland or
anywhere else.
Yeah.
So thank you for creating content, and thank you for creating visibility. This is very important because this makes, I think, also the world better, you know? So thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. Happy to do it.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that we need to talk about that maybe we haven't talked about, that we skipped over?
No, but everything is connected to your, that your story, your life story.
Yeah, I think we told a good story today.
It's similar. So
yeah, let's go ahead and.
If you take a microphone and you interview a random person around, I'm sure the story would be the same. I had an objective, which is point number A, and in order to get there, I thought it was a straight line, but no. In order to get there, I had to go up, down, forward, backward, and but at the end you arrive to that point, or even if you don't arrive, you find other ways.
Right.
So that's also something like encourage people to persist, to work, and to train themselves. That's very important because nowadays we have a lot of data analysis. The technical world is something very technical, so you really may not give any opinion. You have to base your feedback into something. That's why the normatives are helping us. Sometimes, if I go to my boss, let's say here, if I go to my boss and I tell him, no, but I cannot, I want to change this seat, or I want to change this coaster, and I want to put a huge side panel, my boss, of course, he will agree with everything I say, but the customer may not like it, and the customer will say, no, but we don't like this because we want something smaller. Then, thanks to the normatives, we are able to always justify our answers and always find the best solution that the customer wants, that the company wants.
But what do you mean by normatives?
The normatives are the standards. Sorry.
Standards.
Sorry, I'm always saying normatives because
It's your
It's my wrong translation from Spanish. I'm so sorry. It's standards. The ASTM, the EN 13814. Those are tools that allow us to justify our designs and to, justify our designs in front of anyone. A customer, a policeman, a judge, whoever, And that's one of the things that's very nice about risk assessments and all of that. It's a world, we could be talking about hours about this topic, but safety, the safety engineering behind all these rides, believe me, it is not only about automatization, it is not only about electricity, it's about ergonomics, it's about operations, it's about structure, it's about water, it's about motors, it's about guest behavior. There are so many parameters. It's so amazing, and every day we are learning so much.